pretty sure that turd was part of taking back the South Pacific.
Die!
Hey, dun 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 dun.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. Still that
You son of a bun.
It's time for Rock and Roll, the podcast, featuring Dr. Nick Redbone, Tom Nelson, and me. Brought to you in part by Tell 'em who we... I blew it. We blew the intro, third episode.
God damn it! You know what? No, you know what?
We're in there.
No, you know what? We're keeping it. We're keeping it. Look, this. Look.
No, I gave you the in, and then I blew it.
Don't edit this out. Don't edit this out. Don't edit it out. Hi, everybody.
Do you want to know who it's by?
Well, sure. You know what? You know what? Here. Take two. You.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, it's time for Rock and Roll, the podcast, featuring Dr. Nick Redbone, me, and Tom Nelson. Hey, Tom, tell him who we have to thank today.
This wonderful podcast is being brought to you by your mom. Do you know that she likes Eggs Benedict for breakfast? I do.
Thanks, Mom. Oh.
Wow. That suddenly,
Shut that down real fast.
Real quick.
It's already got real spooky.
That's how we do it.
And yes, indeed, welcome to Rock and Roll the Podcast, episode 8. Episode 8. I can't be losing count already.
3 is a threesome, 8 as a total, because you did the first 5 all by yourself.
You said threesome.
I did.
Woo! That's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird. And we are talking about, today, of course, we always talk about rock and roll, but today, and I thought this one would be fun because between the three of us, as we've covered, and it's just fun to completely get ourselves over and over every time we come on.
Of course.
We've got lots and lots of experience between the three of us. I've been in bands since I was 17. Mm-hmm. You were in bands, then you were in radio. I was in radio. Tommy's been in radio longer than both of us. And we also come from different parts of the country, which I think is also a part of this.
Well, Tom and I are fairly
Similar.
close.
We're neighbors.
He was a Wisconsinite. I was a North Dakota.
Iowa.
Wisconsin and Iowa, and you're North Dakota, and I was so I'm the actual only Western native out here.
Yeah.
The reason I bring that up is because we're also come from different market sizes. Mm-hmm. You were in you grew up in a much larger market than where we are.
Well, where I started was this big.
Okay. And what town are you from originally?
Well, I grew up in New Hampton, Iowa.
Right.
Born in Wisconsin, grew up in New Hampton, Iowa. My first radio job was in Waverly, Iowa.
Oh.
And, which was, I don't know, the population back then, maybe 6,000.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So it was small market.
Big. Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to do small town, though, that's about perfect. Because it's big enough to where there's a Walmart, but it's not so big where you get traffic congestion and things like that.
And it's a great place to cut your teeth when you first come out of school because, it's all, there are so many stories. This could be another podcast, early days in radio stories.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have to do that.
If only I remembered my early days in radio.
Yeah, I understand.
The reason that I brought that up is because we're in different regions, we were in different markets, we all had different experiences with bands as they came through. We've all had a chance to meet. Look, lots of people, lots of fans get to go do meet and greets where they see them still, the artists are still on their best behavior. They might put a little bit of rock and roll attitude in it, but for the most part, it's just another fan. It's just another experience, another part of the gig. We've had the opportunity to maybe see them a little bit further backstage, a little bit less on guard. And I know for sure I have about 1 million different stories about different bands that I have met in the capacity of being a radio dude or being a musician who has opened for bands. Mm-hmm. So these are the stories you guys have been waiting to hear.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody.
Time to incriminate ourselves.
Now, I think we should set some rules right now. Like there's one cat that I'm absolutely going to throw under the bus, but I'm not going to name his name because he's still alive. Okay. If there's somebody still alive and out on the road, maybe we shouldn't make a complete asshole out of them. Agreed. Let them do that. themselves.
Hey, look, I'm dropping names.
Are you going to drop names?
I'll
Ooh, you're going to go ahead and just be that guy.
I don't have a whole lot of stories where they came across as a complete ass.
Yeah, I've got
most of my
true.
Most of my stories, everybody I've met has been pretty cool.
Agreed. Yeah, very
I can
few.
say that too, yeah.
Very few have been bad. I mean, I've had a couple. One of them was bad, and I can't blame them. The other was bad, and I absolutely blame him. And he's the one I won't name drop because I'm classy.
I had one who kissed me deadly one time, and she was awful. But I won't say.
Oh,
Very subtle, Brock. Very subtle. Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start with the very first artists I met when I was brand new in radio.
Okay.
I'd been on a microphone maybe 10 times by the time we were in Twin Falls, Idaho, which is the market where this podcast originates from. And there was a place called Boot Scooters that doesn't even exist anymore.
Boot Scooters. Now, which one was Boot Scooters? What is it now? Or
it's vacant. It's been vacant
for a parking lot. I think.
No, the building's still there.
No, the building is there.
The building's still there, but I don't know what it is.
It's not a bar or anything
no,
like that
nothing.
anymore. Yeah.
It's nothing fun. But I was there with my old boss at the time, the worst person in radio. And
your old boss.
My old boss. Yeah. And the band that was playing, the headliners were The Outfield. Josie's on a vacation far away.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't reference The Outfield without doing that.
Well, that's because it's their one song.
Right.
A one-hit wonder.
And we missed
We just
that's
covered
right,
that.
That's right. And I remember, and they were a 2-person band. It was just 2 guys. They had studio guys come in and do the rest of the record. So they had a couple of guys touring with them, but I remember the 2 names. And I don't remember their names. Coming off the bus, and the big tall guy that I think was the guitar player was playing a trombone. And he and the little tiny lead singer came running up to us because we had a broad.
2 guys in the band. One walks out with a trombone.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
And there were. We had our broadcast position set up, and they ran up to us, and they were still putting on Rockstar. But I remember how awestruck I was because, oh my God, I saw these guys on MTV.
Yeah.
And I was playing in a band at the time where that song was in the set. So I was playing one of their songs. So, that was like...
Please tell me you told them that you were in a band that was covering their song in Twin Falls, Idaho.
I was so brand new to the business that all I could get out was...
You were nervous.
Smitten.
Totally. By The Outfield of all bands.
Right.
Hey.
But they were very cool to a kid who was just green as grass. Now, okay, Brock, you have a million of them. I mean, you have better stories than I do. I think
I got to be pretty selective.
Yeah, I know you do because how do we put this? You are notorious among people who know you for your misbehavior. Not all the time. You're a good family man, you're a good dad, you're a good husband, and you have been for a long time.
But when it's time to let the hair down, let the hair down.
Absolutely. My friend Brock has a good friend named Brown Liquor. You just missed an exclusive for YouTube moment if you're not watching on YouTube.
You got to watch on the YouTube.
Yeah, so the story I want to hear, would you please tell me about Hailstorm?
Hailstorm is my favorite story.
It's maybe my favorite of your stories.
The best. So and this, it goes in a few different directions. It's a podcast. I can get a little wordy.
Of course.
So there was a promoter in Idaho Falls, in Idaho Falls, Pocatello. His name was Adam.
Okay.
He worked at Z103, and I think he's doing real estate in Salt Lake City now. But
okay.
Super nice guy, and this was back in the days of 99.9 The Buzz.
Okay.
Prior to iRock, which became the only active rock station in the market for quite a while until the Edge showed up and burned it down.
Right.
So Adam and I would do ticket trades back and forth.
Right.
He would call me and he'd say, "Hey, I'm doing this show. You're the closest thing to a rock station in Twin Falls. Can I give you some tickets?" Yada yada yada. I said, "Sure." So his show was at Reed Gym in Pocatello. It was on ISU campus.
Okay.
And down the street from Reed Gym is Little Roadway Inn. So I went with a buddy of mine who he and I were notorious for getting into trouble when we hung out. So Adam called me up earlier in the day and he said, we've got these meet and greets. This is what time they're going to happen. So if you guys could bring your, because we had given away meet and greet passes and stuff ahead of time. He's like, if you can have your people here, we'll take you back and we'll give you the chance to meet him. And there were 3 bands on the bill. It was Adelitas Way and Hailstorm and Theory of a Dead Man.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah, it was a great show.
So 2 really good bands.
Yeah, and Theory of a Dead Man.
And Theory of a Dead Man.
That's part of the story. That becomes part of the story.
Okay.
So we get to the hotel, we get checked in, and we walk over to Reed Gym because the meet and greets are always earlier in the day.
Always,
I mean, we had at least a few hours between the meet and greet and the actual show.
Already, that's the most important factor.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know what you and this friend do when you have time to kill.
Oh yeah, and we had other friends who were meeting up with us at the Roadway Inn.
Glug, 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 anybody?
So, we go to the meet and greet, and it wasn't that Theory of a Dead Man was rude.
No.
They were just so impersonal. Like, they just didn't...
Were they full of themselves? Or?
Yeah, that's what it was. I mean,
and that's weird because I believe they're Canadian.
And Canadians aren't full of
And Canadians
themselves.
don't tend to be like that. Canadians are like better Americans.
Just ask Chad Kroger and Avril Lavigne.
We met Chad. That's a different story.
So we go to the meet and greet. Theory of Dead Man is just very, very standoffish. They didn't want to say a whole lot. Hey, Tyler, autograph, done.
Right.
So then we get into the Hailstorm meet and greet, and it was Joe Hottinger, who is their killer guitar player,
Right.
and Lizzie Hale. Those were the 2 who did the meet and greet. Nicest people I had met in forever in the business. And so after they had a chance to meet all of the listeners and stuff, we're hanging out and visiting with Lizzie and Joe. And Joe said, I would love it if you'd come have a beer with me at some point if you're going to be backstage, because it's my birthday and we're celebrating
cool.
the bus. I said,
Very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. He's like, are you going to be back there? I said, I don't know what is going to happen for the rest of the day, but chances are I'll end up backstage at some point. He says, cool. Well, maybe we'll see you then. Shook hands. It was a great meet and greet. Everybody had fun. We go back to the Roadway. And at the time, Aaron Ball, who is no stranger to the Magic Valley, he played here a lot. I was good friends with him and his band, Johnny and Chris.
Okay.
They came over and brought Seagram 7.
Your ability to remember all of these names stuns me. I don't even remember my kids' names.
Happens.
Right.
Happens.
Yeah.
But it's the only thing I can remember. There is no memory of anything else.
So you got that going for you, which is nice.
So we got to the Roadway Inn. Johnny breaks out the Seagram 7.
Oh,
I break out the
geez.
Gentleman Jack.
Oh,
now we're talking.
We start throwing them down.
No.
For about an hour and a half. So my phone rings, and it's Adam.
The promoter.
And he says, you guys did such a great job on this show. Would you be interested in bringing one of the bands up on stage? I said, absolutely. I would love to.
Right.
And he said, okay.
And by the way, bringing the band up on stage just means he's going up to introduce the band.
Yeah, hey, thanks for coming out, everybody. Blah, blah, blah. Are you ready to rock? Okay. It's Hailstorm. So he invited me to come up and introduce Hailstorm. And they were... I think they were the second band to play. I think Adelitas Way was 1, Hailstorm was 2, and Theory of a Dead Man was headliner. So
Which means a lot of people were able to go home early that evening.
It's true.
Hey.
So I bring them up on stage, and after I introduce the band and stuff, they let us just hang out right beside the stage. We didn't have to go back into the the crowd.
Right.
We just got to hang out there, and I'm watching R.J. Hale, their drummer.
The drummer, Lizzie's brother.
Yeah, freaking machine.
Yeah.
Like, there's one point where he drops a stick and his stick bag is empty, so he's actually just playing with his foot. He's hitting his hi-hat with his foot, and just a machine.
Right.
So they come off stage, and remember, I'm already probably a pint in.
You are Mr. Seagram and Jack.
Yes.
Yeah. And Joe says, I'm ready for that birthday beer. You want to come back? I said, absolutely. And I was telling him about how fascinating RJ was. And so we get back on the bus. And they're brand new at this point.
Right.
They have a lady.
That's how you got on the bus.
Because now, and I have reason to believe that they are still that humble and cool. Because I know people in the business who have worked with them since, and it sounds like they're still just chill,
Right.
legit awesome people.
So you make it to the bus.
So we make it to the bus, and I don't know how Well, I'll out myself.
Did you have a flashback just now?
No.
What was there? Okay, was there?
I'm going ahead a couple of paragraphs in the story, and I'm like, ooh, do I want to let that out?
Okay, are you trying to hide what I think you're trying to hide?
Probably, but it's a moot point. Long time ago, it is what it is. So we get on the bus with Hailstorm, and they have they have all the PBR you could imagine, and a bottle of Crown. So we're throwing back PBR Crown. We're lit at this point.
Okay.
We don't make it back out to the show.
Right.
And we get talking about the meet and greet, and we're talking about the industry, and Hailstorm was breaking into the scene, and they had I Get Off out, which was the only single that they had that was successful at the time, but you could see that they were going places.
Sure.
And we were talking about the meet and greet, and my buddy and I said, "You guys were so awesome in that meet and greet. You're real people. I mean, there didn't feel like there was any sort of barrier between your fans and the band,
which is the secret. That's what you got to do."
Then we went off on Theory of a Dead Man on how, and I was missing the hint because I was as far in as I already was.
You were a little polluted.
There was a member of Theory of a Dead Man on the bus
as you're talking.
And I'm and Joe keeps leaning into me, and he's like, and I can't remember what the guy's name was that I was making fun of. He's like, "Hey, not Paul though. Paul's like one of the nicest guys that I've ever met," and he's like, he's trying to spoon feed me the opportunity.
But it's not happening.
It's not happening. Yeah. So the night goes on, and I bring up maybe wanting a left-handed cigarette.
An herbal remedy.
Right. And Joe says, "Well, we don't do that, but Adelita's Way does." Which is no secret to anyone. He said, so as soon as... And Hailstorm must have opened, and then it was Adelita's Way, and it was Theory of the Dead Man. Because, this was all happening while Adelita's Way was on stage. So he said, as soon as they come out, you are more than well... We'll see if they're doing what we think they're going to do, and then you can join them. So I kept drinking, of course. Great idea. Especially...
I'm stunned.
Why Especially if you want to pollute yourself in another way later in the evening. Just an absolute...
Oh, yeah.
Wait, and you've got, at this point, Seagram, Jack, PBR. What do you have? Absolute Brewery. and the Crown.
And Crown, yeah.
And
not a lot of Crown. There was one bottle of Crown.
But it was still there, man.
Tons of PBR. So...
my liver feels bad for your
combo,
liver,
man. Right there, that's a combo.
Adelita's Way finishes their set, and Joe disappears from the bus for a little while, and he comes back. He said, "Hey, the guys from Adelita's Way invited you to go hang out in the bus stop if you want."
Wink, wink.
Bus stop on campus, like one of the little.
Yeah.
So I go with Adelita's Way, and at this point, I'm destroyed. Do not realize that there is still the birthday party to come for Joe.
Yeah.
So we wander back onto the bus, my buddy and I, and we're just kind of glued to the couch. We're at that point where conversation just is it's not
Gravity's awesome.
And earlier in the night, their tour mom, Hailstorm's tour mom, brought up to everybody that the way they had to park their bus was right next to this giant canal. And
you now know where the story ends.
Oh yeah. Oh. And the tour mom says, "I just don't want anybody falling out because it's a steep drop, so everybody be careful." And so we're glued to the couch, and suddenly it's like one of those star overload moments where you're like, there is too much happening in this bus right now. I am just a slacker DJ in Twin Falls, Idaho.
Here it comes.
Because Theory of a Dead Man comes on the bus with a cake. And now we have Theory of a Dead Man, Adelita's Way, and Hailstorm all singing Happy Birthday to Joe Hottinger on the bus. And I look at my buddy, I'm like, dude, I gotta
This is too much.
I gotta go. And so Joe, the one who had initially invited us onto the bus, now hours earlier, I said, "Thank you so much. I gotta fall off. I'm done."
Tell me that's exactly the phrase you used.
I don't think.
God, that would have been the best. Because
the tour mom opens the door and says, "Hey, watch your."
Boom!
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen,
that's awesome.
My friend and yours, Broc Johnson.
So my buddy helps me back to the hotel, and it's only like maybe a block or
the roadway.
So it's not the roadway. Way classier than the roadway in Nampa, Idaho. By the way,
That's
good to know. Yeah.
Roadway in Nampa.
Note to self.
So we get back to the hotel, and what's happened is that I'm and mixing the two intoxicants.
Yeah.
It can have side effects.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm feeling ill. Like,
Sure.
I'm not gonna make it through the night without
Chunder.
praying to the point. You're right. But I'm starving because there's the other intoxicant that says nachos are king.
So you need to have something to vomit later.
So
It helps.
my buddy passes out. He gets back to the room and he's done.
Right.
And he did not visit the bus stop.
Gotcha.
So I go into the bathroom, but then I'm hungry. And so the night ends with this vicious cycle where I barf up whatever I had, then I walk down to the vending machine, buy another bag of Funyuns or whatever in the hell it was, eat it on the way back to the room. By the time I got back to the room, I was dizzy and sick again. Got rid of it. I bet this happened 5 or 6 times.
You should have gone back to the venue, to the tour bus. You got any cake?
You know what I like about that story is the fact that Brock has an ID that says he can drink and the impulse control of a 4-year-old.
Yeah. It's really impressive.
Okay, now there's no way I'm going to top that as far as intoxicants. I mean, not rock star stories.
Sure.
But I would love to hear Tommy's story. I know Tommy's got to have one or two. And you've even said before when we were planning this one that you didn't have as many stories as we would.
Well, probably not. At least that I remember, right? And as far as the intoxicants go, that was just me.
Right.
Which, there's a surprise.
Party for one.
You know where I'm going to go.
Yeah. Sure.
You know where I'm going to go with
I know
this
exactly
one.
where it's going to go. That's why I'm going to follow you.
Because it has to be done. So, my man over here, Dr. Nick, and I were at a radio station together a few years ago. And I don't know how we got on this subject.
The one with the great boss, right? Yeah.
The one with that great boss.
Yes, exactly. That one. And, and I don't know how we got on this subject, but we started talking about the time I was probably about 16 years old. This was in the 70s,
right?
Which is an important thing to note.
Yep.
This is going to be relevant later on.
This is so good. This is so good.
I was at a Lutheran church camp. And part of the deal was this was a canoe trip on the Wapsipinicon River, which emptied out into the Mississippi. Cool trip. I mean,
right,
and there's
right.
there's like 2 counselors, and there's like I think maybe me and one of my best friends, and like 4 girls. So and at this age, I'm like, ooh,
right.
It's perfect.
There's girls and perfect summer and it's bikinis
And church.
and
church.
Sorry, God. So I'm going to say that right now up front. I'm so sorry. We haven't left the parking lot yet. I'm sorry. But so we're, and I'm relating this story again to
One of my all-time favorite stories ever.
to Dr. Nick and one of our buddies, and we're on this trip. And one of the things we had to do was we took turns serving up the dehydrated meals.
Camping food in the 70s.
It's a Lutheran camp, though. Is it dehydrated like sausage and Nefla?
Like dehydrated sawdust is what it was. I mean,
nice.
Yeah, it was nasty stuff. But you're rowing and
You're hungry.
You get hungry. You'll eat anything.
Yeah, you need a pine
Exactly.
cone if somebody gave it to you.
So it's our turn to cook, me and my buddy. And so we boil the water. That's pretty much what the cooking entailed, right? And people are going through the line, and we're serving them their food. Now, again, keep in mind this is the 70s, man, and fashion-wise in the 70s.
This is so important. Hang in there.
It's very important. It was not unusual for guys to wear cut-off jean shorts.
And it was literally this wasn't you weren't buying cutoffs. You were taking a pair of old jeans and cutting the legs
it was
off.
cool.
They
They had to have the fray on them.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
And whether it was jean cutoffs or not, the fashion in the 70s for men too was very short.
Way short, yeah. Yep.
The NBA players. Look at any old film.
Right. You had the John Stockton look going on.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
So that's what I'm rocking is the jean cutoffs, and everyone goes through the line and gets their food, and the last person, she was cute. I kind of was like, God, if it can happen on this church camp trip, I'd really like to hook up with her. It didn't happen. But she leans over.
Her loss, Tommy. Her loss.
That's right. Yeah. Send me an email. I'll ignore it. I don't know what that means. I'm serving up her food.
There we go.
Last one in line.
Here we go.
Last one in line. She leans over to me and she goes, "Your balls are showing." So I'm like, oh, I'm just mortified, But on the other hand, I'm like, well, yeah,
sure.
You got to do what you got to do. I'm relating this story to Dr. Nick and our buddy, and, they kind of killed him.
Right.
So for the next week or two, walking around the station, either one of them would walk up to me and go,
your balls are showing.
Okay. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
So, but I'm thinking like, okay, I've got to have the last word on this. I've got to have the last word. Just so happened that Ann Wilson from Heart was coming to the area, and I had an interview with her. So we get through the interview. Great interview, by the way. Love her voice.
Right, me too.
She's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
she really
me
is.
too. Amazing.
And for someone that like so many of these artists that have done a million interviews, she actually showed interest, and we had a great. I still have it all recorded. Still have it somewhere. It's on a thumb drive upstairs, and so I thought I've got to have her take up a notch the simple station identifier like we all do. Hey, can you say you're listening to so and so?
Right. Right.
And you got to do it. And if they say no, fine, but you got to try. Well, I knew what I wanted her to say, but in order for it to make sense, I had to relate the story to her,
right,
which I did. And she's like, yeah, that's cool. I can do that. And so
here we go.
Ann Wilson, I've got it. Like I said, I still have it to this day.
I've heard it.
You've heard it. I think we used it as part of a presentation.
It was part of the initial
for launching
presentation.
Yeah. A little bit edited in some cases, but
we could put it unedited right here on this podcast.
I think we should. Yeah, she's just like, hi, this is Ann Wilson from Heart, and you're listening to Tom Nelson on blah 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 blah. His balls are showing,
ladies and gentlemen.
And the way she did it, it was fantastic.
It really is fantastic.
One of my favorite stories, and one that I can remember.
Yeah.
Why don't we pause and give a smile to the camera so that we can dub in the liner
right here. Yeah. So here
is this
right at the
content?
camera. Yeah,
bonus content.
Right at the camera. 3, 2, 1. Is that good?
No.
This is better.
How about now?
Do you remember?
We got it?
I think we're good.
Do you remember it must have been in the 80s, the TV show Police Squad, which the Naked Gun movies were kind of...
Yes, absolutely.
Which came first?
It was the show first. It was and that was 70s.
They would do this at the end. Do you remember?
The freeze frame.
Fake freeze frame. Freeze frame. Easy for me to say. I'm in radio. Freeze frame. It looks like I had a little Seagrams and some Jack and some PBR.
Yeah, the vending machine is that.
So... I like to rank my rock star stories in like level of fame and move my way down. I started with the Outfield, one hit wonder. They were way down here. The one that has to take the cake. It's the one that I always tell people if they ever want to hear one of the crazy stories. I have a million of them, all based around one guy because I hung out with him on 3 different occasions. You know who I'm talking about,
I do.
Ladies and gentlemen. Eddie Money.
Yes.
Now, let me tell you, and Eddie Money has since passed.
Yes.
And I'm going to be completely respectful, but I'm also going to tell the truth.
He would appreciate that.
Absolutely. Eddie was...
He was a personality.
He was a personality. Eddie was the easiest interview in radio because all you had to do was put him on the guest mic and say, ladies and gentlemen, Eddie Money, and off he'd go. He just goes into character. It's like, you heard this. I know everybody that heard this. Hey, it's great to be on the radio.
Yeah.
I got 2 tickets to paradise. I can't wait to bring you down. You come down to the show tonight. I mean, he was just rocking and rolling, shucking and jiving. You couldn't stop him.
You nailed it. That's exactly the way he was. Because I had a chance to talk to him too. And he was the easiest. And he enjoyed it, man.
Loved it.
He knew it was part of the gig. It's what he was supposed to do.
Yep.
He knew where his bread was buttered. And he went with it.
That's exactly it. And the guy was, in addition to being such a great personality,
hyped up on cocaine.
Ooh.
That boy loved his coke.
He was a great singer. He was a great instrumentalist. He was a great writer. And yes, he did love cocaine. Let me tell you about how much Eddie Money loved cocaine. He asked me, let's see, I hung out with him the first time I met him, my first year in radio, I was in the Twin Falls market. Second time I hung out with him was in Boise. 2 times, I think, well, maybe it was 1 in Boise and 2 in this market. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I think it was the second time we were in Boise and he took me aside. I was sitting backstage. There's so much to this story. I don't want to go ape shit with it. I'll just say this. He was on the phone with his girlfriend while his wife was trying to call on the other line because his manager was holding the phone.
So he's a rock star.
Yes.
Oh,
he tells me, and then at one point he hangs up the phone and he says, "Hey, look, the guys around me, they're okay with me smoking a little bit of grass, but they're trying to keep me on the straight and narrow. But look, I need a little bit of something, maybe a little something for the show later, for maybe, for the party later. You think you can find me a little bit of coke?" Okay, Eddie Money asked me at that point, a young father of one, asked me if I could score him cocaine. Now, what did I say? You know what, Mr. Money, I'll do what I can. Knowing full well, I can't find cocaine. And even if I could, I can't afford to front it. I'm in radio. Eddie Money in the same... And I just need to lump them all together. Yeah. Eddie asks me if I want to go on stage with him.
And do cocaine?
No, but it would have helped. He asked me if he wants me to come up on stage with him, and he wants to do like
two
this.
2 bumps to paradise.
Nice. He wants to do like a call and response thing with one of the songs. Now, I know his hits. I want to go back, 2 tickets to paradise. I know the hits. I don't know his album cuts, and this is what he wants. So, but he hits me real fast. 10 minutes before we go on stage, he goes, "All right, now here's what you're going to do, Jay. You're going to say, okay, I'm going to say, and you're going to say, and then I'm going to respond, and then we're going to hang out, we're going to sing the chorus together." I couldn't understand a goddamn thing he said, because at this point, somebody has scored him coke, and he is moving fast, and his accent is thick, and he's got to go on stage. He's hyped up. He's got a cowboy hat, a saxophone around his neck. Off we go. So they call me out on stage. Oh my God! I'm starting to flash back. I'm having like anxiety. I feel my butt puckering just telling the story.
I was gonna say, was this involved at all?
Oh God, dude!
I would be just shitting my pants.
It was killing me. I'm on stage, and we're at the Idaho Center. There's a lot of people here,
even
right?
worse, man.
Thousands of people. And Eddie, and we come on stage, and they go into the breakdown. Just the drums and the bass. Ding, ding, ding. I know. Oh God, here we go. Stage manager pushes me on stage. Oh my God, they put a microphone in my hand. Oh my God. And he goes, and I feel every eye in the room is on me. The drummer's even looking at me. I turn around, look at him. He's all... And all I can get out is, "Ladies and gentlemen, Eddie Money." I hand the microphone to one of the guys on stage, and I just walk. What else could I do,
that was it.
But I'll say this, Eddie, in addition to all of that,
you could have used that as an opportunity to find cocaine.
I really could have. I'm sure.
By the way,
does anybody have any blow for Mr. Money?
Mr. Money would love to score some Colombian disco powder. I can tell you this, in addition to all of that, all of it, Eddie always put me over like I was a friend of his. I knew him. I knew him. We met 3 times, but I spoke to him on different occasions. I had his phone number in my phone for years.
Nice.
And Eddie, the first time I met him, I was playing in a band at the time, and he asked us to open for him. He didn't have to do that. Hell, the promoter didn't even have any say in it. He
That's
just said,
very cool,
He just said, "You guys should open for us," and we did. And,
wow.
Yeah,
I
we
didn't
did.
know that.
Yeah, we opened for him. It was, the guy will hopefully someday make it to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I can say that not only did I open for him, I kind of hung out with him, and in a way we were sort of, not friends, but acquaintances, for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was very, very cool.
And you soiled yourself before introducing him on stage.
Oh, dude, it was insane.
I'll have to
That's awesome.
omit names of promoters.
It was pretty great.
I have a similar story about, but he was not nearly as friendly. The great Jack Russell.
Jack Russell from Great White.
This is about, I want to say 15 years ago.
Okay.
There was a promoter in the market who was doing shows, and it's pretty easy to figure out in Twin Falls, but I'm not going to say the name. So Jack Russell comes to town, and that morning I'm set up with an interview with him, and I'm interviewing him on the phone.
Right.
And you know the history of Jack Russell. The guy has dealt with substance abuse and addiction and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And so he gets
And still out there kicking ass to this day. He survived. Yeah.
He gets on this interview, and I'm asking him about recovery and the things that he's going through, and he's like, "Man, I'm so straight and narrow right now. It's great. I wake up, I walk. Fresh air is my life. Blah blah blah. Love sobriety. Love my family. Love sobriety."
I know where this was going.
So
Right.
the show happens, and apparently he had been mentioning to a couple of the security guards at the show, and he says, "Man, this is the back. My back hurts. You wouldn't by chance know anybody who would have a Vicodin?" No, I'm sorry. We fast forward to 3 a.m. The promoter, the guy who brought him to town
Yep.
is getting irate phone calls from Jack Russell at 3 a.m. I thought you were supposed to take care of me, and you were supposed to blah, blah, blah. Yeah, this what kind of hospitality is this? And he's just pissed off because nobody can find him any pills. Nobody can find him any pain pills. And that morning, he was telling me on the radio what a fantastic and sober dude that he was.
I don't want to I don't want to jump ahead of Tommy on this one, but this one just reminds me. I said I wasn't going to name the guy, but I am going to name the guy. I was working in Boise, and for some reason, we got the presents on a show. Once again, insider radio stuff. If a station gets the presents, that means on the ticket it says, like it would 103.1 The Edge presents,
right.
And that means you got your personalities, all hands on deck. You're working the show.
Yep.
So for some reason, we got the presents for REO Speedwagon at Cactus Pete's. So here I am once again kind of crossing paths with somebody that may or may not end up in the Hall of Fame. We do a radio interview, and Kevin Cronin, their singer, is talking how much he loves being a new dad, and he's got a new lease on life, and now he's a rock and roller on when he's on tour, but when he's home, he's a family guy. The minute we were done with the interview, he was hitting on our 22-year-old news lady, who was pregnant at the time.
Wow, with his kid.
You bet. Yeah, no, probably not. Yeah, you can't tune a piano, but you can tune a Kevin Cronin. REO Speedwagon reference, an album
I got
reference.
that one.
You see what
that
I
was
did
very
there?
good, man. Very solid.
Yeah.
Very solid.
Now, and I think the reality of what we're getting at here is they're all human beings.
Sure.
They're putting rock stars on a pedestal. You will only disappoint yourself because eventually they're going to let you down. You might catch them on a great day, and they're a fantastic human. Lizzie Hale, the next day after you died at the roadway, she might have been hell's worst bitch the next day to the next person.
Could have been.
Because they're human. Everybody, every one of these people are absolutely
And they are
human.
working hard.
They really are.
They really are working hard.
And I think that's one thing you really see when you get to meet them and you're backstage and you see the tour grind and the bus grind. And I mean, it is blue collar hard work, man.
That's half the reason so many of them end up on drugs because that schedule is ridiculous. I mean, they've got to be up to do interviews and stuff on morning radio. And then they've got to spend the day sound checking and getting the venue ready and whatever else. And then they're playing until late in the night. After that, they've got to get back on the bus after they pack up their crap or do whatever they have to do.
For sure.
They fall asleep. They wake up in the next town, and now they got to go do morning radio again. They don't sleep.
Exactly. It's just like being on a treadmill. And as an interviewer, that's where I always like to try and take a different tact because, only a lazy ass is going to be like, so what's your favorite song that you perform?
Yeah, exactly.
Or do you ever get tired of playing Hotel California? Right. So that makes it even more of a challenge for us. But if you can do it, they really appreciate it. But they do work hard. I know that I think my first big interview was Mickey Gilley.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, Mickey Gilley, country.
And this was not long after Urban Cowboy.
Okay. So he was big.
He was big. Yeah. And we're talking about, the difference between...
He's never been big. He's 3 feet tall.
No, with his hat, he's like maybe 3.5.
Sorry.
Yeah. But I know that talking to him the night before, and this goes back to the, the night and day kind of thing. And he was, I'm not saying that he was a bad guy at all, but a hard worker.
Yep.
That night, oh yeah, hey man, here's my number. Call me at 8 o'clock in the morning. Blah blah blah. We're gonna do it, and blah blah blah. And so I do, and again, this being my first big time interview on the radio, and I'm like, hi Mickey, good morning. And when he answers, it's like, this is Gilley. So I think he was known to,
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
He was.
But he wasn't bad. He was, I think, a little hungover. Yeah. Made sure that we didn't talk about Gilley's because that was during the time when there was some litigation going on. I don't know.
Gilley's was, for those who don't know, Gilley's was this big, huge bar that he owned in Texas.
Yeah, it was like, 1.5 acres?
Yeah, it was like, at one point, it was like the biggest bar in the world.
It was huge.
Yeah.
And it was in Urban Cowboy.
Yep.
But anyway, it turned out to be a halfway decent interview, but I had a lot of respect for the guy for the fact that he let me call his ass that early and put up with some newbie, some greenhorn.
Don't get when you have to call for the interview, usually you've got to go through a channel.
Yeah, there's a handler.
That's what blew my mind, especially as a first timer. It's like, This is his direct number.
Yeah. Right.
So that was crazy. But you got to hand it to these people that do this all the time. They put up with us, and they're really working hard.
They really are.
And sometimes they're asses, sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, with some of these bands, you really will become friends with them. I mean, the guys from, we talked about Messer, I think, in the last episode. Yep. The guys from Messer are friends of mine. Yeah. They've come to see me do stand-up. Matter of fact, they wanted to take me out on, before COVID happened, they wanted to take me on tour through Texas and go open for them.
They were on the road before COVID happened, and I think they were going from like Seattle to Denver or something like that, and they made it a point to stop and crash at the KOA in Twin Falls just so that they could hang out with
and
us.
That was when I went and ate barbecue with them.
Yep.
That's the kind of guys they are.
Yep.
Nice.
I got to, this is one of my favorites because...
Ate barbecue, is that what you called it?
We ate barbecue. Yeah. There was a guy that didn't have to do anything for me at all because he's another name. But he did. When I was working for the worst station in the world when I lived in Boise. For the second worst company I ever worked for. It was The Point. That's right. Yeah. What's The Point? I never knew. Yeah. It was programmed by idiots in a committee. Anyway, they thought they were going to throw a big festival and not advertise on stations that actually had listeners, which was their mistake. So it was 110 degrees at a baseball stadium, and they had Huey Lewis and the News. They had Loverboy. They had big name acts, man. And during that show, I met Huey Lewis, who was stoned to the bone, but very pleasant, very professional. The one that I will always remember, and it makes me smile every time I think about it, I met Mike Reno from Loverboy. Now, Mike Reno, when I met him, he was pushing $3 bills. There was a lot. Mike Reno's not fitting into the Loverboy Lucky Pants anymore. You know what I mean?
He's not. I've done commercials for those guys in recent years. Yeah. He's eating well.
Yes. Yeah. But they're getting ready to go on stage. Loverboy's about to go on stage, and I'm supposed to introduce him. I am terrified. Man, this is a big act. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And he walks next to me, and he can see that I'm just bouncing like a jackrabbit. And he says, hey, man, relax. This is going to be fine. This will be fine. Trust me. Just do what I tell you. You're going to be just fine.
And then he eats a whole pot roast.
He says, look, man, when I tell you to go out, just go out. Say what you're going to say, then introduce Mike Reno and Loverboy, and then walk off the other side. That's all you've got to do, man. That's all you've got to do. But say what you want to say, because they're going to keep playing until I come out, and that's when the song's going to kick in. You're going to be fine, but don't go till I tell you to go. So all he needed to do was be holding my hand. Like, he could have had me on a leash like a 4-year-old, right? And he just waits. And then when he knows it's time, he says, all right, man, go on out. So I went out and I did it, introduced the band. He came out. He thanked me for the intro.
Nice.
As they went. He taught me a skill that I have used now 1,000,000 times since I've been in the business. He didn't have to do that.
Roast?
Yeah. How to buy 2 for pot roasts. 1 for lunch, 1 for dinner. No. Reno was rock solid. Totally rock solid. And like I said, it didn't have to take... There was like 8 people there all dying of heat stroke.
Yeah.
Still put on a huge kick-ass show and did not have to help me at all, but he did. So very classic.
Cool guy,
That's cool.
Were you with me for the Anthrax meet and greet in Las Vegas?
Nope, I fell off the wagon that day.
Oh, that's the night I poured you into an elevator and left you.
Fell off but that was, I hear that was pretty sad.
It was awful. So we got a note from we're at this convention in Las Vegas.
Right.
And I've been talking this whole podcast.
All of the good stories start with that line.
Yeah, we're at a rock radio convention in Las Vegas. There's so much booze and so much smoke. I mean, it's just insane, the whole thing. But we get a note from the label that's handling Anthrax. I want to say it was Megaforce at the time. Mm-hmm. And they said, look, after, Anthrax wants to do a meet and greet, they're going to be in this hotel suite at this time. They're expecting it, blah, blah. We're like, oh, cool, meet and greet with Anthrax. That's a band I grew up listening to and learning how to play their tunes as a kid.
Yeah.
So we go in. They'll kind of herd us into this suite. You can tell the minute we walk in, Anthrax had no idea that they were about to be interviewed.
Did it just go dead quiet?
They were standing there with friends, like their own friends. And suddenly the room fills with nerdy radio DJs who are all half in the bag, or in my case, mostly in the bag. Yeah.
It's midnight.
But
It
it's
was a
midnight in
movie.
Vegas. And this was them post-show. If you've ever played a show, when you're done, you're a little worn out, man. You just kind of want to decompress. You really are. So there's Anthrax, and they don't give two shits about talking to the radio guys.
Did you get the stink eye at all?
We did. All of us did.
But they shouldn't. I mean, if something like that got crapped on my head at midnight, and you paraded a bunch of drunken idiots,
strangers
just want a picture.
Yep.
No.
So I didn't even bother asking for a picture. I talked to the drummer briefly. Kind of got the cold shoulder.
Yeah.
Talked to Scott Ian, the one that I wanted to meet so much, the little guy with the big beard.
Yeah.
Got the cold shoulder there
I
too.
went to Disneyland once.
Okay, I met Corey Taylor at Disneyland. Anyway, I shook his hand and I said, I just wanted to thank you because I grew up listening to your music. And he was like, great. Eddie Trunk was in the room too. Eddie Trunk was friendlier than Anthrax was.
Wow.
So I was kind of starstruck, but I realized at that point I shouldn't have put them on a pedestal. I have to remember they're human. Mm-hmm. Rock stars are humans, just like the rest of us.
Have you ever met your all-time famous, like your all-time musical idol?
No.
Mine
are dead.
You're dead. Yeah.
Well, and mine is so out. There's no way. Anybody from Led Zeppelin has no time for me.
I had in 2005. It was the American Idiot tour. And I knew the label behind Green Day,
right?
And got hooked up with a meet and greet. And I'm like, all these years I've wanted to meet this band. I've got so many things like, oh my God, man, you changed my life,
right?
And then you get to that moment, and all I could say is, "Hi, I'm Brock,"
and that was it.
He said, "I'm Billy. Nice to meet you." And it. I didn't
what
know
else are you going to say?
Sure.
What else are you going to say?
I had a novel of crap that I wanted to throw at him, but I was so probably the only time I was legitimately starstruck.
But you have to, what the fact that we can still get starstruck is kind of the neat thing about it. I think the minute I'm not starstruck by meeting bands and especially the ones that I truly am into and I truly dig, then maybe I'm in the wrong business.
Exactly. You should always, if that doesn't turn you on anymore,
exactly.
Somebody, then it's time to get out.
That's it.
Yeah.
Have we? And I know we haven't hit all of our stories, but we've probably hit the patience level.
Yeah, we're 46 minutes in pre-edit.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's a big one.
Okay, then let's do this. Make sure to check us out on YouTube. Go to YouTube and search Rock and Roll, the podcast. You can also find us on Spotify, and you can find us on Podbean. If you're going to YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe.
Yeah.
You could push this button right here.
Sure.
Where do you want it?
Yeah,
there we go. Push that button right.
Stick with what we know, the crotch.
Yeah, push it right there.
Click the crotch.
Click the crotch. Yeah. And please like and subscribe, and please spread the word, because that's how this thing will take off, and we love doing it. Until the next time, my name is Dr. Nick. That's Brock. That's Tom. Peace, love, rock and roll. We're out.